Good afternoon, guys. Welcome back. Uh, just to remind you guys, I asked you guys to email me because I needed to give you the link for the Google form to complete that and submit it so that you guys can get your attendance certificates. And only 3 people had actually emailed me. So, first things first, right? I'm going to give you the email address again, right? It's NAY. Just give me a moment, right? NAY 731 at africateengeeks.co.za. Please, either you or your parents should actually email me so that I can give you the link. I actually sent it to 3 people. So please, that is important because you do need your certificates. Firstly, that's the first thing. The second thing is this over here. On Friday is going to be our last lesson for these 3 weeks. Obviously, there are plans to continue with different stuff and things like that there, but we will let you guys know. Important thing is this though, that on Friday will be our last lesson for the session, and we are going to have a 30-minute lesson, and then after that, for the last 30 minutes, we are basically going to have a discussion between you guys and myself with regards to what you've learned and what you thought about the lesson so far, and what you would like to improve, what you would like to change, etc. Right? So that's on Friday. Right. Okay. Right. I was just informed now that we will let you know on Friday with regards to whether we are going to be continuing or how we're going to be continuing with the lessons from next week, right? So please email me with regards to your certificates so that I can send you that link. Now, yesterday we looked at an introduction to the for loop. Now, just to refresh you guys' memories, right? We're going to work with this over here. Okay. Right. Read in an integer value n and determine an output, all even numbers from 1 to n. Now, here's the thing. Firstly, let's go and display all the numbers from 1 to n. So the most important thing is this now, that when we are looking at our input, right now, remember last week and the week before, our input and our processing and our output were actually separate parts. Unfortunately, what happens with the for loop is this over here, that we can actually process and output together. So that is why you'll notice that yesterday I did not actually separate everything, right? But I will mention that we are looking at which parts are the input and which parts are processing and the output. Now, first things first, read in an integer value. So our input, we are reading in one input value, integer. So remember, we're going to call it n because, like the question says, n is assigned int. We're going to cast our input. Now remember, the input method reads in everything as string. So enter a number, right? So the user is going to enter. Now this is the user is going to enter a value for 1 to n. Now remember what I told you yesterday with regards to the range method, right? So we're going to go with for x in, and we are looking at range. We're starting off with 1, and remember, if I put n over here, if n was 5, x is going to take on 1, 2, 3, 4. So if n was 5, it's going to take on 1, 2, 3, 4. But we wanted to go up to 5. That is why we actually say n plus 1. So if n is 5, it's actually 1 comma 6. So what happens is, it will, remember, right? Let me just put a comment here, right? If I said range 1 comma 6, right? The values will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember, the first value is your start value, and that one, the second, argument is telling us that it'll be 1 less than that. Okay, so we've got that, right? Now, x is going to go from 1 to n. Now, first things first, I'm just going to print, and this is good programming, people. First, I'll check now, hey, wait a minute. Is it going to be printing all the values from 1 to n? So that's the most important thing. Firstly, let's see if that works, right? It's always a good idea to actually answer all of your questions part by part and see if each part works, instead of going and putting in like 50 lines of code and then finding that you got so many errors and you don't know where the error is. So I said 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's displaying it. But here's the thing. We want to display all even numbers. We want to display all even numbers. So how do we check if x is an even number? Remember, I told you yesterday that if you mod any number, if you divide any number by 2, and if the remainder is 0, it means it's an even number. If the remainder is 1, it's an odd number. So I'm going to go here, if x mod 2 equal 0. Now, if that is so, then only will I print x. Okay? So x is going to go from 1 to n. I'm going to check each value of x. Remember, as the loop runs, let me just go and show the line numbers, right? Remember, in line 17, that's where we're starting off. What's the first value x will take on? The first value x will take on will be 1. Then it will come to line 18. It will check now. Is 1 divisible by 2? The answer is no. So it will never come to line 19. Then it will go back to line 17. Now remember, from the end of the loop, it will carry on going back to the beginning of the loop, to the for statement, until it reaches the last value it's supposed to reach. So in this instance now, right, in this instance, I said 5, so it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So remember, right? So x, this is your start value. So x will first take on 1, and then 2, and then 3, and so forth. Right. So let's run this. Okay, before I do that, all right, I'm going to put in a print statement. Yes, make it user friendly, right? And we are basically going to say all even numbers. What's the question? All even numbers from 1 to n. All even numbers from, okay, plus, oh no, let's go here. It will be 1, 2, and it will be plus strn. Right? What does str do, guys? It will convert n into a string and it will join it over here. So that's giving us a user-friendly statement telling us what is being displayed. All right. So, okay. Right? I said, let's go and put in the number 20. 20. Right? Now remember, x is going to take on the values 1 to 20. But it's only going to display the even numbers. There we go. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. All right. And there's my user-friendly statement there. The English is not correct. It should be all even numbers from 1 to n. Okay. So that is displaying all even numbers from 1 to n. But the question also tells us that we also want to determine the sum of all even numbers. Now, remember I told you your sum variable is an accumulator variable, and we initialize our sum variable. And also remember yesterday we dealt with counter. We'll be looking at counter just now as well, right? We are determining the sum. So remember, before the loop, I'm going to have a sum variable to calculate the sum, and I'm going to initialize it to 0, right? Now, if x is an even number, not only must I print x, but I must also say sum is assigned sum plus x. So this is adding all the even numbers, right? This is adding all the even numbers. Now, if I run it as is right now, okay, if I run it as is right now, okay, we got 20, okay, and you'll notice that it's not displaying the sum because it doesn't have a print there. But what would the sum actually be? That would be 38, 44, 54, 58, 68, 70, 80, 98, 104, 110. Okay, so now remember, this statement here that I'm putting in is the sum of all even numbers equals and plus, and remember sum is an integer, so I need to make it a string to display it, right? I told you if we enter 20, the output should be 110. The sum should be 110. So let's go look at that now, right? I'm still going to enter 20, okay? And the sum of all even numbers equals 110. So this is adding all the even numbers, right? Now, what if I wanted to know how many even numbers are from 1 to 20? Now, whenever you come across a question as how many, right? I'm going to change this question now, right? I'm going to come here and say, how many even numbers are there, right? So whenever you come across a how many question, it means you need to have a counter variable, right? Whenever you come across a how many question, or if they say determine and output the number of even numbers, or if they tell you how many even numbers, right? Or how many times an even number appears from 1 to n, right? Whenever there's a how many or the number of, you need a counter variable. So in addition to having sum is assigned 0 here, guys. Now remember, pay careful attention. I cannot put the statement inside the loop. Okay, I cannot put the statement. See these two statements here, guys? I cannot put it inside the loop, and I'll show you what I mean, right? If I come here and do this, okay, tell me something. What do you think is going to happen to sum each time x changes? When x is 1, sum will become 0. 1 is not an even number, it will never come here. When x becomes 2, sum will become 0 again. When x becomes 3, so each time x is taken on a new value, sum is becoming 0. In fact, if you look at the sum over here, you're going to get 20. If I enter 20, right, let me just show you. If I enter 20, the sum is 20 because it only keeps track of the last value, because each time x changes, sum becomes 0. That is why your sum and your counter variables should never be inside the loop. Although there are instances where we would use it, but that is called nested looping. And if we have time this week, we'll actually look at that. Right? We probably will tomorrow. Although there are other programs that I actually want to do. Now, if it's an even number, sum is assigned sum plus x, and a counter variable, remember, what's happening to sum? Sum is accumulating. Each new value is being added to sum, right? Each new value is being added to sum, okay? Now, what do I mean by this, right? Now, check this out. If I do this, right? And I showed you this yesterday, the running total. If I say print x, that's my even number, plus Sum is, sorry, now plus str sum. So what's going to happen is each time it displays an even number, it's going to show you what the new sum value is going to be. All right, so let's go and run that. I'm going to enter 20, and I want you to notice something now. Oh, wow. You know what the problem is, guys? This here. I was supposed to put an str here as well because they're all string. Remember that they all should be string. All right. Okay. Let's go with 20. Check it out. The first even number it comes across is 2. Sum becomes 2. The next even number is 4. It's adding the 4 to the 2, the existing value of sum, and sum will now become 6. The next even number is 6. It will take that even number and add it to the existing sum value, and sum will now become 12. You get the idea? The next even number is 8. 8 is added to the existing sum value. It will become 20. Can you see that, guys? Right? So that's your running total of sum, and you can see how sum is changing each time. Each time, sum is increasing. So if you really look at it, check here, guys. It's 2 plus 4 equals 6. 6 plus 6 equals 12. 12 plus 8 equals 20. 20 plus 10 equals 30. 30 plus 12 equals 42. 42 plus 14 equals 56. 56 plus 16 equals 72. 72 plus 18 equals 90. And 90 plus 20 equals 110. So you can see each time sum is increasing by the even number that we're actually coming across. So I'm going to leave that there, right? And I am going to show you this though. Now, remember, sum is accumulating. A counter variable will increase by 1 each time something happens. So the something happening here is x is an even number. Therefore, we're going to say count is assigned count plus 1. Okay? You get that, guys? Count is assigned count plus 1. And I'm going to show you these two statements just now slightly differently, right? And then obviously, we are going to come over here and, no, I'm not going to do that there. Let's do this here. Now remember my indentation, my cursor is here in line with the 4, so that means it's outside the loop. All right, so print, sorry, there are plus str count plus even numbers, right? So what are we doing over there now? Okay. Let's just make this capital. I did that for the other output. Even numbers. So this is going to tell us how many even numbers there are, and this is going to display the sum of the even numbers. All right, so let's try it out. Oh, I left out a bracket here, guys. Can you see that? Okay, once again, 20. All even numbers from 1 to 20, and there's it here. These are all the even numbers. There are 10 even numbers. Let's go and count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. There are 10 even numbers. So this is counting, and this is the sum. Okay. All right. So if you look at our question again, we're reading in N, we're displaying all the even numbers, we are calculating the sum of all the even numbers, and we are counting. Now, I told you I'm going to show you this slightly differently. I'm hoping this is the correct syntax. Okay. I'm going to come over here, sum plus equal x. Okay. and count plus equal 1. Okay. Now, let's see if it runs first. We got 20, and yep, it works. So, what did I just show you? Instead of saying sum is assigned sum plus x, the plus equals actually means this, guys. The plus equals, it means add x to sum and assign it to sum. Can you see that? We can also have minus equals, we can subtract. All right. So sum plus equals x is the same thing as saying sum is assigned sum plus x. Count plus equals 1 is the same as saying count is assigned count plus 1. Okay, it's important, right? You don't have to use this here, guys. Using this is just fine, right? But if you ever looking at a program where you are given a program and you need to read and understand what it is doing, it might be like this. So you need to know that that's exactly what it's doing. All right, so I'm going to leave that there. Right now, all of these programs that I'm doing today, I will upload it tomorrow, and I will, though those of you that have emailed me, I think there are 4 people only that emailed me so far, I will send the link to you tomorrow in the morning, right? To all of the four loop programs that I've done, that will be with the answers and with comments explaining to you line by line what is happening now, right? So this is just even numbers. Now, my next question, guys, was basically the same as my previous question, except we want to do it for odd numbers. Can you see that, guys? We want to do it for odd numbers. Now, if we want to do it for odd numbers, remember, it's the exact same program like previously, guys. It's identical to this program, except that instead of odd numbers, right? Instead of odd numbers, instead of even numbers, we need to look at odd numbers. Now, which line number would I change, right? If I wanted this to be odd numbers, I'm just going to make this over here. Odd. Instead of me typing all of this again, because the code is identical, people, right? And that would be odd. And if we said 10, right, what would it be? If I said 10, it's going to be 1, 2. Well, this is what it's going to be, guys. Control C. Let's go here. It's going to be that. Okay. And, well, we're obviously going to display how many odd numbers there are as well. So, what line? Which line, guys? Which line? Look at the code. In line 16, we're allowing the user to enter a number. In line 18, we're just displaying a heading, a user-friendly statement to say these are all the odd numbers. Okay? And that to odd. That to odd. So, look at it. At the moment, there is one line over here. There is one line only that I need to change for it to do it for odd numbers. At the moment, it's doing it for even numbers. I only need to change one line. And guys, that line is my if statement. Now, once again, just to remind you, if we take any number and divide it by 2, if the remainder is 0, what is telling us that this is the remainder? The mod, right? Percentage sign is mod. Now, if the remainder is 0, it's an even number. If it's an odd number, the remainder will always be 1. So all I do is change one single value. So now what am I doing? If I divide x by 2 and my remainder is 1, it means that x is an odd number. So let's just look at our sample input here. We've got 10, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, that's 16, 21, 22, 25. Our sum of all the odd numbers will be 25. And how many odd numbers are there? There are 5 odd numbers. Can you see that, guys? So let's go and run. Oh, no, 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 no. I need to save this as, okay, override. Okay, we don't want to lose the other program. Okay, let's run it. So if I enter the number 10, there we go. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Can you see that, guys? 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. This is the running total. There are 5 odd numbers that counted, and the sum of all the odd numbers is 25. Right. So this program is identical to the other program. We changed our wording in our output statements, in our print statements, and the most important thing is this: the if statement changed. Instead of equal equals 0, we made it equal equal 1. All right, so that should not be too difficult to actually follow, right? But you will grasp the concept of these things as we go and look at the next few programs. Okay, now let's close that. Close that. Now, here we go. This one program lends itself to so many different things, right? And I'm going to be changing the question as we move on, right? So it's a very simple question. If you look at it, it's just one line. Read in n, an integer n. So the user is going to enter n, right? And determine and output the factors of n. The one thing I did not do, yes, sorry about this, guys. I should have put an example, right, of input. Let's assume the input was enter, enter a number, and let's assume we enter 12. Then our output should be the following, right? The factors of 12 are, so we do that. And what are the factors of 12, guys? Now, this is the important thing. How do we determine the factors of 12 or 6 or whatever it is? How do we determine the factors? Now, let's just go look at this here. If I looked at, okay, just sorry, let me just put in a table over here so that it makes it easier for you to see, right? So what number are we looking at? 12. Now, how do we determine, if I asked you, or you in class and your mathematics teacher told you, okay, what are the factors of 12? You would basically ask yourself, okay, can 12, wow, can I know? One moment. Oh, okay, right, let's go. Can 12, now basically I'm going to ask myself, can 12 be divided by 1? Yes. What is 12 divided by 1? It's 12. So 1 is a factor. Can you see that? Okay. Right. So can 12 be divided by 1? Yes. 12 divided by 1 is 12. Therefore, 1 is a factor. Can 12 be divided by 2? 12 divided by 2. Can 12 be divided by 2? Yes. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Therefore, 2 is a factor, right? Then, can 12 be divided by 3? 12 divided by 3, guys? Yes, 12 divided by 3 is 4, right? So, 3 is a factor, right? Did I use this symbol? Yeah. Okay, right? We'll come and look at that just now. Now, what's the next number? After 1, 2, 3, the next number is 4. 12 divided by 4. Yes, 12 divided by 4 is 3. After 4, 5. Can 12 be divided by 5? Yeah, we're going to get a decimal answer. We're going to get 2.4, I think, right? So are we getting a whole number answer? No. Can 12 be divided by 10? All right, if you're using a calculator, if you get a decimal answer, the answer is no. Can 12 be divided by 11? No. And the last value, can 12 be divided by 12? Yes, the answer is 1. So, what are our factors? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. Now, why did I do this? Basically, if the teacher had asked me, okay, what are the factors of 12? In my head, I'm going to say, okay, can 12 be divided by 1? Can 12 be divided by 2? Can 12 be divided by 3? You get the idea? Now, the most important thing is this, though. I want you to look at this pattern over here. We are basically counting from 1 to what? 12. 1 to 12. Now, remember, a factor of a number is always either less than the number or equal to the number. It will never be bigger than the number. So any factor of 12 can't be bigger than 12. It has to be 12 or smaller. So what am I doing over here? I am counting from 1 to 12. Whatever my number is, I'm counting from 1 to 12. And I am checking, is 12 divisible by each number? If it is, then that number is a factor. All right? So basically, what am I saying? I am saying in this instant over here, guys, it's actually going to be 12 mod 1, right? I'm checking if 12 mod 1 equals 0. That means if I divide 12 by 1, will my remainder be 0? So important. If a factor, let's look at this here, right? 12 mod 5. What's 12 mod 5 equal to? 5 can go into 12 2 times. Your remainder is 2. It's not 0. So only if the remainder is 0, then only will it be a factor. So I have to count from 1 to 12. Do we know a programming structure that can count from 1 to 12 for us? Let's go and look at it. Okay. Right? So the factors of 12 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. So first things first, allow the user to enter a value for n. Input, enter a number, right? The user is going to enter a number using the input method. It's a string. Int will cast it into an integer and it will store it in n, so n is an integer. Now, whatever my number is, I need to have a variable to count from 1 to that number, right? And that's where our for loop comes in. Now, remember, I've been using x, okay? You could use a. I'm going to use a. For a, n, remember the range, it's going to go from 1 to 2. Now, if I put n over here, guys, and if n is 12, it's only going to go up to 11. So I need to say plus 1. Okay, and colon. The colon is very important. So what is my loop variable? My loop variable in this instance is A. In the previous program, my loop variable was X. It could be anything, people, right? I could actually, you know what? Let's just make it for dog in range 1 to n plus 1. So the first value dog will take on will be 1. The next value dog will take on will be 2, etc., etc. You can basically call it anything. You can call it fruit. You can call it chocolate. You can call it anything, right? Let's call it D. It's easier to use. Now, I need to check if n, now remember the user entered n. I need to check if n is divisible by 1, by 2, by 3, by 4, up until the value of n. Now here's the thing. Which variable will take on 1? And then the next time it runs, it will take on 2. And the next time it runs, it will take on 3. That's D. The first value D will take on will be 1. So I'm going to come over here and check. I'm going to display over here firstly, right? Remember, user-friendly message. Factors of str n plus r. Okay, I'm going to check now if what's the number the user entered, which variable stores the number that the user entered, n. If n mod, mod. Now, if n mod what? I'm supposed to divide n by what? Which variable takes on 1? Then it will take on 2. Then it will take on 3. Then it will take on 4. Which variable is that, guys? It's this variable here. So, if n mod d equal 0, that means if if n is divisible by d, that means whatever value d has, right, that value is a factor. So I'm going to come here, right, and I'm going to print d. So if n is divisible by whatever value d has, right, how do I know it's divisible? I will mod it by d, and if the remainder is 0, that means n is divisible by d. And that is it. So the first time d will take on 1. And it will check now if n is divisible by 1. The second time n will take on 2. Then n will take on 3. And each time it's going to check if n is divisible by 1, by 2, by 3, by 4, by whichever value it takes on. So let's go and run this. Okay, 12, right, guys? 12. What are the factors of 12, guys? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. There you go. The factors of 12 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. Okay? Let's go run it again. And enter the number, I don't know, 56. 1, 2, 4, 7, 8, 14, 28, and sorry about that. And oh, and 56. Can you see that, guys? Okay. So whatever number you enter here, whatever number you enter, it will. I could enter any number. I could enter 240. And there you go. Those are all factors of 240. Can you see that, guys? Right? So you could basically enter any number. Now I want you to look at this. This is a very, very short program, but it will display the factors of any number that is input. So let's go through it again. The user, we're going to allow the user to enter a number. The number is going to get input as a string. int will cast it into an integer and it will store it in n. N is an integer. This is just basically a user-friendly statement to say the factors of, and whatever value n is, it will convert it to a string and it will join it. The plus, remember, the plus joins strings. It will join it to the factors of and r, and then our for loop, our loop variable is d, right, in the range 1 to n plus 1, y plus 1, because we want it to go to n. If we put n over here, it will go to 1 less than n. So if I entered 12, and if I didn't have the plus 1, it would go to 11 only, right? Then I'm checking if n is divisible by each new value that d takes on. And each new value that d takes on, if n is divisible by that, then we display that d value. Okay? So that, guys, is a program to read in a number and determine an output, all the factors of that number. Okay? Now, talking about factors, there is so much we can actually do with factors. Okay? Now, let's modify this program. Let's modify this program. What if I wanted to display, did I do this? Oh yeah, I did, right? Look at this question here, guys. Read in n and determine and output all even factors of n. So if I enter 30, can you see that, guys? If I enter 30, right, it must output 2, 6, 10, and 30. So instead of me typing all of this out again, I'm just going to copy that and put it here. Okay. Let's close that. Okay. Read in n and determine and output all even factors. So we're making one change to it. Now we're not displaying the factors, we're displaying the even factors. So that means two conditions need to be satisfied, people. One, d must be a factor of n, and two, we must check if d is an even number. We must check if d is an even number. How do we check if d is an even number? We mod it by 2 and the remainder must be 0. So remember the statement, guys, and we'll check now if d mod 2 equal 0. So how many conditions do we have here? We have 2. Now remember we did the AND statement last week. The AND operator, it's called a logical operator. So if d is a factor of n and d is an even number, then only it will display the factor. So if I enter 30, it should output 2, 6, 10, and 30. Right? Okay. So once again, we want, not only we want the factors, each factor must be an even number. If n is divisible by d, that means d is a factor. Then I must check, is d an even number? If I mod it by 2 and the remainder is 0, it means d is an even number. And then only I will come here and print. Okay, so 30, right? Let's just move this one side. What should our output be? 2, 6, 10, and 30. 2, 6, 10, and 30. Can you see that, guys? Right? I should say the even factors. Yeah? Okay. So if I enter the number 120, those are all the even. Now, right? Moving on. If I wanted to display all the odd factors, guys, if I wanted to display all the odd factors, what would I do? Huh? What would I change here, guys? This is checking if it's a factor. This is checking if it's even. I should change this statement, yes or no? I should change that statement to 1. So if I divide d by 2 and I get a remainder of 1, that means it's an odd factor. Can you see that? So that statement to odd, change that word to odd, right? It's going to save it. Odd factors. Okay, so what are the factors of 30? The factors of 30 are 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 10, 15, and 30, right? So let's go run it and check. So this is going to be all odd factors, guys. So if we enter 30, check it out, 1, 3, 5, and 15. Those are all the odd factors of 30. So you will realize that just by making one simple change, we can change it. Okay? Just by making one simple change, we can change what the program actually does. Now, like I said, with factors, you can do a whole bunch of stuff, which brings me to, and this is important, right? You guys have been doing maths for a long time now, and y'all would have learned about prime numbers. What is a prime number, guys? What is a prime number? Right? What is a prime number? A prime number, guys, a prime number is any number that has only two factors. That means there are only two numbers that number can be divided by. What are those two factors? What are those two factors? What are they? It's the number 1. Every number can be divided by 1. So it's the number 1 and it's the number itself. Okay, so that means it can only be divided by 1 and by itself. So if I looked at the number 4, what are the factors of 4, guys? It's 1, 2, and 4. How many factors? 4 has how many factors, guys? 4 has 3 factors. But a prime number has how many factors? So let's look at an example of prime numbers, right? 3, guys. 3. What are the factors of 3? It's 1 and, I'm just going to do this here. It's 1 and 3. Another prime number is 7. What are the factors of 7? It can only be divided by 1 and can be divided by itself. If I look at the number 13, 13 can be divided by 1 and by itself. So you'll notice 3 is a prime number, 7 is a prime number, 13 is a prime number. I'm not worried about what the actual factors are. I'm basically asking you, how many factors does a prime number have? Every prime number has only 2 factors, right? Only 2 factors, the number 1 and the number itself. So if I'm coming here, I'm looking at this. Let's look at the question, guys. Read in N and determine an output. All the factors of N, which we've done already, and whether N is a prime number or not. So let's look at our examples of the guys. Input, enter a number. And if we enter 6, what are the factors of 6? 1, 2, 3, 6. How many factors are those? 4. Therefore, it's not a prime number. Look at the second one. Enter a number 5. What are the factors of 5? It's just 1 and 5. How many factors, guys? Only 2. Now, in this question, they're not actually asking you how many of anything, but you need to understand that you need to actually know that a prime number has only 2 factors. A prime number has only 2 factors. That means we need to count the factors, guys. We need to count the factors. And remember, my count variable, the count is assigned 0 before the for loop. I want to display the factors, right? I want to display the factors for x in range 1, n plus 1. Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. We've done that like 3 times already now, right? So we're inputting our number n. Count is assigned 0 because count, remember, count is going to count the factors. So firstly, I'm going to come over here and I need an if statement here. If n mod x equals 0. That means if x is divisible by x, if n is divisible by x, sorry about that, if n is divisible by x, that means x is a factor. So firstly, I'm going to come here and I'm going to print x. Okay, just put a nice print statement here. Okay, factors of str n plus. Okay, it's going to display the factors. Can you see that, guys? Right? I'm not doing anything with count right now, but let's just go and check it out. I'm going to enter 6. Okay, I'm going to enter 6. They are the factors of 6. Can you see that, guys? Right? I'll go 1, 2, 3, and 6. I'll go into 5. The factors of 5 are 1 and 5. Can you see that? So, in addition, if x is a factor of n, then firstly, I must display, and secondly, count plus equal 1. Okay, never mind. Count is assigned count plus 1. That's the same thing. So count is counting. Can you see that? Now, look at where my cursor is. It's outside of the loop. This if statement is indented. It indented means it's away from the margin from the left border, right? The print, can you see that? And the count, it's all inside. The print and count is inside the if. The if is inside the for. When I come here, it's outside of the if and the for statement, the for loop. Now, what do I need to do, guys? What value must count have for it to be a prime number? What value must count have for it to be a prime number? Now, remember, I need to check the value of count. How many factors does a prime number have? Only 2. So I need to check if count is equal to 2. Right? So I have my message statement. Remember that from last week, guys? Message. And now I need to check. If I need to check a variable, I use an if statement. If count equal 2. If count is equal to 2, that means it's a prime number, yes or no? So I'm going to come here and say message is assigned strn plus is a prime number. Now, if it's not a prime number, guys, if count is not 2, if count is any value but 2, then we have an else part. Now, when does it come to the else part, guys? It will only come to the else part if this is false. If this is true, it will come here. It will never come here. If this is false, if the statement is false, then only it will come here. And when it comes here, message is assigned strn plus is not a prime number. Sorry about that. Okay, and lastly, we display print msg. Okay. Okay. So if it's a factor, if x is a factor of n, firstly I'm going to display it, and secondly I'm going to count it. When the loop finishes, it's going to come here. Message is assigned an empty string. If count is equal to 2, that means it's a prime number. Else or otherwise, it's not a prime number. Okay, so six, right, guys? 6 is not a prime number, but prime number. Sorry about that. Why? because how many factors are there? There are 4 factors. Therefore, it is not a prime number. So it's coming to the else part. And if I can run it again, and if I enter 5, 5 is a prime number because it has only 2 factors. All right. So remember what I told you about this else part, guys? Do I really need the else part? Nope. Come here and I can paste it. Yeah. Okay. So I don't need the else part. So I'm assuming that it's not a prime number. If count is equal to 2, then it will be a prime number. Then message will be replaced by a new message. So let's go try that out again. If I enter the number 12, 12 is not a prime number because the number of factors are more than 2. Okay, if I run it again, and if I enter the number 13, 13 is a prime number because it has only 2 factors. Okay, so what did we look at today? We looked at using an if statement inside a for statement. We looked at a program where we used and as well, right? We looked at, once again, our counter variable. Remember, our counter variable is assigned 0, right? And this is from yesterday, right? And then obviously, you can see how we can use an if statement inside a for statement. Okay, you can actually have another for loop inside a for loop, but we will look at that tomorrow. This is what I want you to try to do today. Snipping tool, guys, very quickly, and snip that, right? Snip that, and you try to answer it. Okay, so what is a perfect number, guys? You're going to output all the factors of n, and you're going to determine whether n is a perfect number or not. A perfect number is any number where the factors of the number add up to the actual original number. All right, where the factors of the number add up. Now, what is our original number here? 30. Let's add all the, now it's every number except the 30. Remember, the number is a factor of itself. So we ignore the 30 and we add everything else. So that 25, 36, 39, that's 42. Is 42, this total equals to 42, guys. Is 42 equal to the original number? No. Look at this here. Let's look at 6. What are the factors of 6? 1, 2, 3, and 6. We ignore the 6, right? We ignore the number itself. Let's add the other factors. What's 1 plus 2? 3. 3 plus 3? 6. Is 6 equal to the original number 6? Yes. Therefore, 6 is a perfect number. Okay? So snip that. And you guys attempt it today because I'm going to mark that tomorrow. Now, the next perfect number, guys, is 28. Right? 6 is the first perfect number. There's 28, the second perfect number. And during the course of the week, I'll show you how we can actually go and display like the first 10 perfect numbers or whatever it is, right? So thank you so much for joining me this afternoon, guys. I will meet with you guys tomorrow. Just remember, please email me, okay? So that I can send you that link. I'll do that tomorrow morning, right? Your parents, remember, we need your parents' email address as well. All right? So just remember, take care, be safe, have a good afternoon, and we will meet tomorrow afternoon at 2. Right? Take care. Goodbye.